Welcome back to another video. We're about to tour a multi-million-dollar car storage facility located in Scottsdale, Arizona, currently housing over $50 million worth of cars, and we're about to go meet the owner and the founder, Ron. We're about to talk to him, get a full business tour. He's gonna show us everything. We're gonna talk about how he bought the building, how he bought the land, how he thought of the idea, and he's also gonna share with us how he's created multiple streams of income right here. And at the very end, I'm gonna sit down with him for an exclusive interview, so make sure you stay all the way. Let's just go ahead and let's go inside. Ron,
hey,
such a pleasure to meet you.
Welcome.
Yeah,
welcome
thank
to
you
the
for
vault.
having us. The vault is just incredible.
Thank you very much.
When I walk in, the first thing I notice immediately is the Pagani sitting right here in the middle. Talk to me a little bit about what you have going on here. This is just an absolutely incredible operation. You know, obviously you started this. You told me a little bit before we started shooting, but walk me through kind of how you got it to the point that it's at today.
Well, I bought this land, my wife and I bought this land after selling our healthcare company as a parking lot in 2019. 2 years it took for permits during COVID, and then about a year of construction. So from the ground up, we're 16,000 square feet. After 2 weeks on the couch after selling our company, I figured out I wasn't wired to retire yet. And so I needed to do something. My wife agreed I needed to get out and do something. Started looking at other businesses to start or purchase. And this was just gonna be a bigger garage for my stuff. I had a smaller building for my cars. And then the thought occurred to us about making this, combining my passion for cars, a place to put everything I've collected over the years into a small business. So we have members that join as a member and store their car here. We rent out the venue for private events, for corporate groups, private events, car unveils. Hennessy's brought their Venom here twice during Car Week.
Wow.
And then thirdly, we just launched our social membership called the Finish Line at the Vault.
So you really have 3 different ways that you actually generate revenue with the small business that you're running here.
Yes.
Which is so cool, you know. And ma'am, what a cool thing to be a member here, to have your car here, or like you were talking a little while ago,
Place
not
to hang
have your
out.
car here, just hang out, right?
Everyone, it's the country club for car guys, is what I like to call it. For lack of better, I personally don't play golf. But I love hanging out with like-minded enthusiasts, whether they have a car or they don't. I still love hanging out and talking cars with other people.
I love that. So these 3 cars right here, these are member cars, or are these your cars?
No, these are member cars from a private collection.
From a private collection, got it. And I would imagine these aren't the only 3 cars that member owns.
No, he's got quite a few more cars than that.
Yeah, I can only imagine. And so as we kind of make our way over here, the first thing that sticks out to me, which I talked to you about a little while ago, is all of the signs. I mean, we literally have signs throughout the entire garage.
Yes, I have been collecting signs, starting with the small little tiny ones that go on gas pumps called pump plates, for 25 years.
Wow.
I've bought them from all over the US and the world. I have signs from Italy, Germany, Canada, just about anywhere you name it. I have bought signs and memorabilia from France. So most of this was built before I was born.
Yeah.
But growing up, I always had an attachment, it seems, to things, the 50s, 60s, 70s era. So for me, that was things that I collected and worked my way up from old rusty signs into nice ones. These are all original signs, except for 2. Most people can't ever spot which 2. But for me personally, I kept a lot of the patina ones are at home in my garages. My home office has a restored gas pump and some signs in my home office at home.
I love that, yeah. If you were to sell all the signs right now, I'm just curious, do you have any idea what they would go for?
Last appraisal was let's say between 1.5 and 2 million.
Wow, so crazy. So they're not cheap.
No. The signs that were $5,000 10 years ago are now 50, 75. One non-neon sign recently sold on Facebook in a buyer's group for 1.4 million or
Holy
1.5
cow.
million. And they
That
followed
is-
it up with selling another one for over $1 million.
Wow.
So there are guys that have entire collections that are worth more than some large car collections that just collect signs.
That is so crazy. I'm loving it so
I love
far.
both of them, so that's why I collected a few of my favorite cars along the way.
I don't think I've ever seen as many signs in one garage as what you have here.
This collection is actually pretty small compared to some that I
really?
know, even here in town, but it is more than others.
Sure.
From the 1910 to the 1960s.
Wow.
So some are over 100 years old.
That is so
This
cool.
car is one of my recent purchases. I bought this Ferrari. It's the first Ferrari I've ever owned,
Really?
but it was one owner and 7,000 original miles for a 24-year-old car.
Wow.
So drives
That
great.
exact car was the first one you ever owned, or you owned a car just like that?
No, this particular one was the first Ferrari I bought, but it was
Gotcha.
only owned by one person from the time it was new
Holy
to the
cow.
time I bought it, with only 7,000 miles in 24 years. So last of the V12, and you could only get a manual transmission.
Wow.
More than half my cars, in fact, probably 2/3 or 3/4 of my cars are manual transmission cars because you can't get them anymore.
Right. Yeah, and you've got to love driving stick. I mean, I don't know about
Yes.
you, but I love driving stick.
This one's another favorite of mine, the 91 NSX. I'm the second owner. It's got 31,000 miles, completely original paint interior.
Yeah.
I've got the original wheels and tires at home, and then it's got some later NSX wheels on it, but
That
drives
is so
like a new
cool.
car.
What's the deal with the gas pump here? Was that ever in a actual service?
Yes. So we added, that's an original service light. The pumps are original. They've been restored.
Wow.
And my wife's father would only stop at Texaco.
No
So
way.
my wife grew up only liking Texaco. So therefore I had to do that one for her. I'm a fan of Sunoco. You'll see a lot of Sunoco signs and pumps along the way. This particular Shelby is the first of the Shelby Mustangs built. They built 536 of them. And I bought this just a few months ago.
1965?
1965. It's got
Okay.
a few bugs on it that have made their way in.
Yeah.
I've wanted one since I was 15, so it was finally crossing it off my bucket list.
I love that.
Next to it is a Members 66 VIN 1 prototype.
Wow.
That is the only Shelby you'll ever see that had a blue vinyl roof. Thankfully, they didn't continue that in production because it's not the most appealing for most Shelby guys.
You got the member got that from Bear Jackson, I see.
They did. It was restored about 15 years ago.
Okay.
And it's about ready to undergo a mechanical restoration
Got it.
of all of the mechanics.
Very cool.
Obviously, we have some supercars.
Yeah.
We store a Ford GT, McLaren's.
Is that a 720?
720? We
Okay.
have two of those here.
Yep.
And
I
then
love the 720.
the new Ford GT.
We've
and
got to look
Carbon
at the Ford
Series.
GT really quick. I mean, this is a heck of a car. Talk to me a little bit about that particular car right there.
This is a Carbon Series. I believe they made either 20 or 30 of these with the visible carbon stripes. These run about 1.2. So these are at the top higher end of the Ford GT era. It was 2020, so it was the last year they made it. One thing you'll see here at the vault is you've got a brand new Rolls Royce, a Hypercar supercar, and a 49 Ford pickup with a flathead with 60 horsepower all together. So you never know what you
With
see.
the gorilla in the passenger
With the
seat.
gorilla in the passenger seat. That's his co-pilot.
Yeah, I love that.
This car is my first car from high school, 69 Triumph.
So beautiful.
GT6. Not most people have never seen one or don't know what one is. I was in a small town. My dad wanted me to buy a boring little 4-cylinder.
Yeah.
And when you live in a town of 7,000 people, he wouldn't let me buy the big block Chevelle I wanted. This was the
That was it,
closest,
huh?
the next thing that I found. It was 2 shades of British Racing Green. So it weighs 1,300 pounds and so drives like a little go-kart.
I love that. Yeah, very cool. Well, why don't we go ahead and make our way back around, and
Yep.
then let's go look at everything on the list.
Sounds good.
I hope you're enjoying the business tour so far. Really quick, if you wouldn't mind, if you know of a business that you think would be a really cool tour, Or if you own a business that you would like to get featured, all you have to do is text 480-418-5339, the word business, okay? Again, 480-418-5339, the word business, and we'll see if you qualify or if the business qualifies for us to go ahead and tour it. Now let's just go ahead and get back to the tour. That is a heck of a lift right there.
That holds 30 cars.
Okay.
They can build them as far as you have space. Park Plus is the manufacturer. If you people have ever been to Bruce Canepa's in California, he has them 4 high. Same with Matt Farah's West Side Car Collector Club. And so they make them in Asia, they make them automated so the cars can move sideways, up, down.
Wow.
So then make them and then move them all over the world.
So you can go as high as you want and as wide as you want, or just as wide as you want?
You can go up to 4 high, but I've seen in Asia they go 10 or 12 high.
Wow.
And you go as long as you want. So
what's the process of, like, if I wanted to get that car down, do I have to move that car? Like, how do I get that car down?
Yes, it takes about 10 minutes. You move a car out, you lower it, you move a car out, you lower it, and then you get the one off the top.
Wow, okay.
So most of these are long-term storage, or they're summertime where they're not here to drive it. This particular Ferrari is a 355 Ferrari that the owner has a couple Ferraris, and many members swap them back and forth. They own 2 nice cars, they have room for one, and so they just trade them back and forth. So it's more about the spot than the car.
Sure, and I'm excited in a little while too when we sit down, you know, to talk about how you came up with the name The Vault. And I know that you have some really cool security, and you take security obviously very seriously,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
You know, I could imagine that whoever's storing a car like that, they want to know that with complete certainty it's going to be safe. Yeah.
One of the things, this Bentley is an example, the owner's coming after hours. I live about 10 minutes from here, but if I can't make it here, the entire building is automated.
Wow.
So I could park this in front of the door with the key in it. When the member gets to the gate, they text me or call me. I can unlock everything, turn off the alarm, open the door. They drive out, and then I lock everything back up, set the alarm. So
I love that.
The whole building is automated on my phone. I can see the cameras from my phone. So that was important to me, from just both safety as well as being able to pull up and see the cameras at any time, as well as being able for members to get their cars 24/7 as long as they give us notice.
Yeah, sure. I wonder if anybody, I keep thinking about this rack as we talk. I wonder if anybody's ever done that in like a residential, like in their house, anything like that.
Absolutely.
You think so?
A normal lift would be 1 car high, or 2 cars high, I'm sorry. And then I do know people that have these in their house.
Wow.
There's other manufacturers that make them. As long as you'd have to have 15, 18 foot ceilings for some. This one is 22 feet to the top of those beams. So it just depends on the height of your garage.
Got it. What is like one of your favorite cars on the entire rack?
Oh, the 38 Alpha we'll get to in a second.
Okay.
I love the story. This is a member's car. This 55 Thunderbird has been owned by him since the 70s.
Wow.
And he owned a business for 40 years that bought and sold Thunderbird parts. So he would sell Thunderbird parts to people. And he just recently gave me a book featuring his car on the cover, and his wife, who they're now in their 80s, but at the time she was probably in her late 20s or 30s, featuring his car and his wife on the cover of the car.
How cool is that? Oh my gosh.
So this Ford GT, my wife and I purchased after we sold our company. We each agreed to pick 1 car as a reward for selling the company, and this one was mine.
I love that. Which one was hers?
She chose a McLaren 570.
Okay.
This one had 500 miles on it, now has about 2,500 miles that we've owned, let's see, 4 years now.
Okay, very cool.
So love the car, love the performance. It's the last of the American analog supercars.
You think you'll ever sell it?
I don't think so.
Yeah, hard to do something like that when it's sentimental. I can't help to notice the Lamborghini.
Yeah, this is relatively new members' car. We also offer concierge service for our customers, our members. So for instance, we coordinated, because he was getting a full sound system put in, to get the car over there. They can come pick the car up. Then it went from there over to Lamborghini to get a full custom Lamborghini titanium exhaust put in, and then we picked the car back up to bring it back home.
Wow.
So we can take the member's car in for service for them if they're out of town, they're traveling. We can pick them up from the airport. So it's basically the concierge for your car.
Dang, I love that. I'm excited to talk more about that in a little while and like all the different things that you'll do, you know, as a part of that concierge. I mean, this is just like really, really cool. I'm loving it. Do you like the Lucids?
I love the build quality in the interior. I'm not particularly a fan of the styling. I'm not against EVs. I much prefer the hybrid that gives you the power like a Revelto. I did recently get invited and travel to Italy to drive the Pininfarina Battista.
Oh, wow.
Which is the platform of the Rimac with a Pininfarina design body and interior.
Dang.
I have to say 1900 horsepower and instant torque.
Yeah.
It drove far more like a internal combustion engine hypercar than I thought it would.
Sure.
So I was very impressed with that car and the way that it drove.
Yeah,
so
that is awesome.
This Resto Mod back here is built by Condigit Design 2018. It has 2,500 horsepower.
Holy cow.
So you wouldn't know it. It looks like any other Resto Mod, but underneath that is a 1,500 horse engine and twin turbos in the back, giving it 2,500 horsepower.
You would smoke just about anybody.
That one's not mine. That's a member.
Yeah.
He also owns a car we'll see in a second.
Okay.
He likes his Fords and he likes his horsepower. So one of the favorites on this rack for me is the recreation of a 1938 Alpha 158. Fangio won the first F1 championship in 51 in one of those cars that had a supercharger added to it. It was built by Ant Anstead that was on Wheeler Dealers for Motor Trend streaming under Master Mechanic. It's still on their streaming service. So I'd watched the car be built, did some research on the history of the car. It won every race it entered from 38 to 51, obviously except for World War II when they didn't do any racing. They built 6 originals. They were separated during World War II, and the body went to one country, the engine went to another country, and the chassis went to a third country, and reunited them later. And there are 3 left in the world out of the 6 original cars.
And you have one of them.
Well, no. The originals would run you about $30 million.
Okay.
This was built as a recreation
Got it.
to that. And then I walked into Barrett-Jackson in 2020, and it had been put up for sale. They didn't make it into the catalog, didn't do advertising, but I'd watched the build series of the car.
Holy cow.
And from start to finish. And so there was really only me and one other person in the entire room in January, Scottsdale Barrett-Jackson bidding on the car. And so I walked away with it probably for less than it would cost him to build.
Yeah.
So it's been to Laguna Seca during Car Week last year, got to run laps around Laguna Seca in that car.
Oh, that is
so
awesome.
that was a blast and a bucket list item for me.
Yeah, for sure.
We've got a lot of Porsches. The same gentleman that owns that 2,500 horse Ranchero has a 1,000 horse GT500, 700 horse Cobra, and then this 2,500 horse drag car.
Holy cow.
Full slicks, built for drag racing.
Yeah, you got a big old blower sticking out the hood.
Right next to a Porsche exclusive Turbo S Cabriolet. So it goes back to we have a little bit of everything in here, and that's one of the things I like.
Yeah, I love that. Well, I appreciate the tour so much. I really want to sit down with you. You know, we'll go. You have a really cool little sitting area, which I want to talk more about. And I know you have a conference room that your members are able to use. I want to talk a bit about your concierge, a bit about the business model behind everything, and I'm excited just to sit down and talk about everything.
All right, sounds good.
Let's go. So, Rong, you were telling me a little while ago that you have over 60 cars in the building right now. How many of those cars are member cars right now, and how many of them are yours?
Right now, I think I have 10 or 12 in here. I have some at home. I have a couple parked out back.
So how many cars do you personally own right now?
I own a total of about 20.
About 20, okay.
Counting daily drivers and a truck to tow my trailer, that kind of thing.
And you're working on a couple more. You were just showing me a really cool Mustang.
I do have a couple more coming in. I recently sold my 73 Datsun 240Z Resto Mod on Bring a Trailer, and I have a few more that'll be going on Bring a Trailer soon to make space. I have a custom 67 Mustang built by Weaver Customs in Utah coming in that's been on the show circuit for a year. It's won awards at every show. So far, it's undefeated in terms of best of show at every show it's been in. And then my wife has a 2020 Aston Martin DBS Ultimate coming in. They're building 350 for the world.
Very cool.
That is coming in. That is a replacement for her 570 McLaren that we talked about earlier.
Yeah. So then you must have, I'm doing some math, you have roughly about 50 member cars stored here right now. And out of curiosity, what is the, is it a subscription? Like, how does somebody become a member and store a car here?
We have two options. We have those that are just out of Phoenix for the summer for 3 months, 4 months, and that's a flat rate for short-term storage.
Okay.
Most of the other members pay a annual membership fee and then an annual fee to store, or a monthly fee to store their cars.
Got it. And if you don't mind me asking, like, are you allowed to share roughly what that might cost?
I'd rather not, for competitive purposes.
Sure.
But we'll just say that we're substantially less than some of our local competitors.
Okay, awesome. I love that.
I tried to make it as affordable as I can and still pay the bills at the same time.
Sure. And then you said that you can also be a member here without having a car.
Yes. So we recently launched just last week what we call the Finish Line at the Vault. And that's a social membership for people that don't want to store a car, but think of it as a country club for car guys. They want a place they can come hang out, whether it be during the day, stop by, eat their lunch, check out some nice cars. They want to use our full functioning conference room for either themselves to work, a quiet place to work. Sometimes people from home still want to have a different place to come work, and an environment like this that they can, take a break from work or have a business meeting. It doesn't hurt to bring in a potential client that you want to do business with and be able to bring him in to a space like this and then use a full functioning conference room.
Sure. Yeah, you have really cool facilities over there too that I would imagine they could use. You have a sitting area, kitchen.
We have a kitchen. We'll do Formula One race party watches. We do a Super Bowl party every year. We have the Indy 500 we did with one of the local car clubs that we had an Indy 500 watch party.
Sure.
So we'll be open at least one of the weekend days, whether it's watching football or a race. And then we'll also be doing some private networking events and social events for those members.
Talk to me a bit about, the security, right? I know that if I was somebody storing, potentially $1.2 million Ford GT, right?
Yep.
I would want to know that the security's on point. And I remember when we had pulled up, outside there's a big old gate. We have to call you, the gate opens, then we come in, and then there's another door that we have to walk through, right?
Yes.
So talk to me a bit about what you did in terms of the security.
I spent some time speaking with someone who specializes in corporate security as well as network security. And it's all about, whether it's in the military as well as corporate, it's about layers. So you're right, you'd have to take a SWAT team van to get through that metal gate, that steel gate that's out there. As well as cameras that you can see, cameras you don't see. One of the things we invested in, the steel roll-up doors that are a little bit heavier than normal doors. And then one of the things we invested in is what we call a key safe that a lot of dealers use to track their keys. So it's located over there, that is fingerprint access only to get to the keys. I'll never forget walking into an unnamed local storage facility that had an F40 with the key sitting in the seat.
Oh my gosh.
Now, I'm sure they've changed that since then. This was a few years ago. But that thought just stuck with me of how can you have a $3 million car with the key sitting in the front seat? Or storage companies will use just a box that the keys hang in. You could probably open with a screwdriver. So it's actually a hardened steel case. And then the keys are attached to a metal tag that has a magnetic disc that when it slips in, it matches it up with that key and who pulled it out last, to track who pulled out that key. And then it knows instantly if the wrong person pulled out the key or you pull out a different key. Let's say an employee tries to take a car, it will track who took that key and I'll know exactly who did it.
Wow.
So, the gate, the other doors, the roll-up doors that you can't open from the outside without key. You also may have noticed a keypad to enter. So we tried to make it as secure as possible because my own cars are in here. So for me, it was important to have the security is important for the members' cars as it is my cars.
Yeah, super important.
You've worked your whole life to be able to afford some nice cars. I feel they need to be protected.
Yeah. I'm curious a bit about, when because you bought the land, right?
We bought the dirt. It had been used as a parking lot for 15 years.
Wow.
And so we're the only, to my knowledge, the only car facility in Scottsdale that was built from the ground up.
Is there special zoning required to build a car storage facility?
No, actually it's industrial I-1 zoning, but I had to jump through a lot of hoops with the city to basically satisfy what they're looking for car storage. We built it from the ground up because I wanted to design it. All my life, I wanted to design cars, and ended up, longer story, going into healthcare, although that's how I met my wife, so it was meant to be.
Yeah.
But always studied design. I was an art and design major for 3 years. I was a college junior before I ended up switching over into healthcare.
Sure.
And so always loved studying design. Over the years, we had 45 locations in my previous life, and designed each of the build outs that we had as we moved into new spaces. So finally, with the architect, said, just give me the box and let me design the rest. And was here on site every day for the year of construction. It was essentially my full-time job.
That is so cool.
To make sure it got done right. And I subbed out a lot of the things to do myself, to act as the super on, to make sure it was done the way that I wanted it to.
Yeah. What is the most expensive car in the entire facility right now?
Hands down, the Pagani up front.
The Pagani, I love that.
And the Elva next to it.
What roughly does that Pagani run?
Depending on that particular one's probably about $4 million.
Wow.
There's a 5-year waiting list for Paganis, and they only build 20 cars a year, 25 cars a year. Wow. So you'll wait 5 years for a new one. So they've just released the Utopia. That particular car was built in 2014. They built 100 Wyras in the world. So you have a very exclusive car that was so far ahead of its time.
Sure.
I was actually had the fortunate ability in our 30th wedding anniversary to take a tour of the Pagani factory. And you could walk in, every room, every seat, everything is very out in the open, except for the carbon fiber clean room. You got a window to view it. But because it was like a operating clean room or a microchip processing clean room, you couldn't go in that room.
Yeah.
They weave titanium into their carbon fiber, which I didn't know until I took a tour, to strengthen it and add extra rigidity, and that's something no other manufacturer does.
Holy cow.
It's proprietary to them. So down to a car that is $20,000. They all pay the same rate. So from that standpoint, my insurance would probably be more affordable if I had more $20,000 cars, but it wouldn't be near as fun.
Yeah. Is it hard to get insurance on the whole facility, having all the value in here?
No, currently we have everything insured on the commercial side through Haggerty and their underwriters. They call it a garage keeper's policy, and then obviously commercial or building and property insurance, umbrellas, liability insurances, and then my personal collection is through Haggerty.
Yeah. What's the type of avatar of somebody who says, hey, I'm going to take my McLaren 720 or my Ford GT or my brand new Rolls Royce, and I don't want to keep it at my house. I want to keep it in a temperature controlled storage facility. What types of people typically are the types of people who store in a place like this?
Most of them are business owners who own. It's always that problem of owning 2 or 3 cars more than they have garage space. They may live in a $10 million house in Paradise Valley, but it was built 5 years ago with a 3-car garage, and they've got 6 cars or 5 cars. So a lot of them have just, a few more cars than they have garage space. Some are gone for the summer, and they need we're dust controlled, humidity controlled, obviously air conditioned. We keep them plugged into battery tenders. We keep them wiped down. We start them on a regular basis, check the air pressures. So their car is babied much more than it would be if they left it at home in a 150-degree garage that rots the tires and can the battery. They come back in a dead battery. So
do you detail them while they're here?
We do.
Okay. On a regular basis? Wow. And you were talking a bit ago about the concierge. So like if a car needs to get shipped somewhere or something, like what all do you do there? We
can arrange shipping. We can help with a purchase or a sale of the vehicle. We have on-site people that can come do a full detail ceramic coat, paint correction, PPF, take the car to service, pick it up. That G-Wagon at the end, the gentleman had bought it and is building a house and had never driven it. We actually picked it up from the dealer for him and drove it before he did.
No way.
So he just recently came into town and drove it for a week while he was here to check on the construction of the house.
That is so
as they
cool.
relocated their business here. His business partner has the other G-Wagon. They bought them together.
They're beautiful, yeah.
So we do a little bit of everything for that customer. I have helped them find vehicles. I've also helped them sell, whether it's managing an auction on Bring a Trailer, or help through my network of connections find a private buyer for a car, or help detail it and prep it for auction.
Yeah.
We run the gamut and offer all those services.
Such a cool service that you provide. I love it so much. One of my final questions for you is that, what is the future for you? I mean, is car storage something that you would like to expand? I know this started as just your own thing, and now you've turned it into a small business. Do you have a vision of ever having multiple locations?
Well, I learned early on and was taught early on by a mentor I had in business that you always need to have a 5-year plan, and that you always need to be planning 10 years ahead as well. So in our business, we grew from 0 to revenues of plus 60 million in 12 years by always thinking 5 years down the road. It's the Wayne Gretzky always said, you shoot the puck to where the skater is going, not where he is. So I believe in always having a plan ahead. So we also, one of the things is continue to, as we've done very little advertising other than word of mouth and social media. We've hosted Hypercar unveils with Hennessy, and their Venom F5 was first seen here. And then they brought their Track Focus and the Roadster here again this last January. Rented out for private events. In the future, I've just had some inquiries on franchising this in other states and being a franchise.
Sure.
And there may be a second building, or potentially car condos, since those are very popular here in Scottsdale.
What's a car condo?
A car condo is a complex of 20 to 40 units where you build individual garage condos, and people purchase those, and then you're managing the property for them.
And those are really popular here.
It is. They sell out pretty much before they build them.
Wow.
The hard part is finding the land, but there's a couple of those irons in the fire that I've got for future expansion.
Sure.
I've got to be moving forward. I can't stay still, and my wife would attest to that if she was here.
You tried for 2 weeks.
I tried for 2 weeks, and I figured out I wasn't wired to retire yet. I was 53, and but combining my love of cars and passion for cars into a small business, I've done that. We had 350 employees in 45 locations in 10 states. I enjoy now that I have 2 employees and myself. It's a lot less stress and a lot more enjoyable.
I love that. Ron, I really appreciate you giving us the tour. I am a car guy myself. I'm also a real estate guy, so I love everything about what you've done here.
Well, this is the one thing I regret in my future or my past business was that I didn't own the real estate. So this one, building it from the ground up and owning the real estate, obviously the real estate will likely be worth more than what the business may be down the road. And so having that and building it very open concept so it could be used for a multitude of things was something I had in mind for the future for my kids and grandkids. I've got 7 grandkids and a great grandchild, and not all of them are into cars, but in terms of a business, I see them a lot more stopping by.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah, I don't know how you couldn't be walking into here, but maybe as they get a little bit older, and they appreciate it. Well, Ron, how can people reach out to you if they want to store their car with you or they just want to have a conversation with you?
They can reach out through our website at vaultofscottsdale.com. Instagram is Vault of Scottsdale. We also have a second page that's Vault of Scottsdale Events. My email is revans@vaultofscottsdale.com. If they're interested in events, we have a full-time event planner that's on staff that coordinates all of that and coordinating the social club. And so reaching out through our website comes to myself and my event planner. And that's the best way to reach us, or through social media.
Thank you so much, Ron. It was a real pleasure.
You're welcome.
It's really cool to see what you built.
Thanks for coming by.
I cannot wait to see what you build in the future.
We'll see.
Thank you.